It's Thunderbolts, asterisk, the new spoilers. Yeah, does it really matter? They already ruined that the second week this was out. I mean, it was on billboards and everything. This is, however, my second viewing of Thunderbolts. If you haven't seen my vlog review or know my thoughts, you should probably watch that first, or at the very least watch the movie first. And as you might recall, I didn't exactly know what to make of this film right after I saw it. In fact, this was one of the few times I sat down and I was kind of working out my thoughts as I was talking about during the review. So yes, it was a little messy. I didn't really have things figured out. And ultimately, I decided it didn't quite work. It didn't come together. There's a lot of good things in it, but some things just didn't stick the landing. So if you want to know a few more details about that with no spoilers, go watch that review. From this point on, it is going to be spoilers. Again, you've been warned. A whole bunch of badass side losers from other Marvel movies are finally together at last. Yeah, this is a group that I didn't really know I wanted to see together, but I do really like these actors and I like these characters, so it was pretty cool and fun to see them all together. But it looks like they might not be together for long, as Valentina, the shady congresswoman who hired them all, is being investigated and possibly impeached. Yeah, like that holds any meaning anymore. So she tries to get rid of all the evidence, including this gang of misfits. While they're in this vault that's about to be incinerated, they discover Bob, someone who is frozen asleep and has no memory of how he got there or what was done to him, and they find they have to escape the clutches of Valentina, who also discovers that Bob shouldn't be alive, so maybe there's more value to him than she thought. Somewhat sporadically, Bob turns into a villain under Valentina's control. Other badass side characters join the team, like the Winter Soldier and the Red Soldier, and they have to stop the now powerful Bob, also known as Century, from turning everybody into stains on the ground. There's moments in this movie that aren't appalling or anything and have been done so much worse in other films, but I am just so sick of some of these tropes. Like, I'm sick of them saying, "We're not a team, we're breaking up," when you know they're gonna get back together. I'm sick of them talking about how we are a team and what are we gonna call ourselves. It's a funny little story. Okay, I guarantee, in 10 years, bare minimum, they're gonna have jokes about funny little stories about funny little stories about how they come up with a group name or a catchphrase. Get it? Because everybody was doing that back then. It's meta humor, and I'm done. I'm just done with this. And I'm sick of movies trying to tell us this is a big deal, even though we know it's kinda not a big deal. Like, they're the new Avengers, and yeah, like I said, in the second week they reveal that. That's what the asterisk was, and okay, that's playing the long game, but I really didn't care, and the movie's acting like we're supposed to and not supposed to at the same time. Like, well, yeah, we know it's not really the Avengers, we have the real Avengers coming, but everybody was like, whoa, they just revealed it, they showed what was really going on, and is this really that big a deal? I don't think it is, seeing how this movie wasn't a huge hit. I mean, I don't know if it was like a huge bomb or anything, but, well, this isn't as much ego baiting as other Marvel movies. I do think it needs to get down a little bit more from its high horse. Now, with all that said, watching again, I will admit there are a few things that work better than I thought. I actually think I can make the argument there's more things that work in this movie than don't work in this movie. Like I said, these actors are super charming, and I do like these characters. I always talk about in movies how, yeah, man, do we have to focus on the main lead? I feel like the side characters would be more interesting. That's what this movie is, and I really love it for that. I'll be honest, I actually like these characters more than the outcasts in the first Guardians movie. Not the second Guardians movie, that's like one of my favorites, but compared to the first Guardians movie, and definitely the third Guardians movie, I really do find I would rather watch these people either just talk in a room or fight evil or whatever. Like I said, some of the jokes are hit and miss, but even if they miss, they do usually manage to make them pretty charming. They're really, really talented. I also really like how they handle Valentina this time. I don't think I need to mention Julia Louis-Dreyfus is a comedic legend, her legacy is set, but I feel like Marvel didn't really know how to handle her. They kind of handled her the same way like people handled Leslie Nielsen after the Naked Gun movies. Like, just go big, goofy, and silly, that's all you need. You're funny, you know how to just be funny, and there should be structure to the comedy and the situations and the lines. You don't just throw a funny person in there and say, be funny, that's not how it works. And this movie gets that. Valentina is both very humorous and can be legit threatening in this. I will admit at the very end I was originally put off by how she gets away with everything a little too easily and how the Thunderbolts at first are gonna kill her for, yeah, the lives of several people and even the torture of several people, but then she calls them the new Avengers and they're like, okay, whatever, haha, we can let this slide, you owe us, and I'm thinking, no, this person should really go down. But watching it again, I really did enjoy her so much, especially some of the dialogue she has when she's talking to her assistant.
You're brought up to believe there's a good guy and a bad guy. There's a bad guy, and a worse guy. Righteousness without power is just an opinion.
That I did find myself letting that stuff slide. I was also impressed watching it the second time how well they did work in the commentary with depression, and yeah, I don't think I'm really going out on a limb with that. I think everybody has brought that up. This is very, very obviously an allegory for depression, and it was done well, but I didn't really catch on that it was there from the very beginning. Elaine at the edge of a building there and jumping off and the dialogue she has, I do look at that now like, alright, now I see what you're trying to do. Originally I thought it was just kind of a lame, obvious opening, like, oh no, she's so tormented, she's gonna jump off and, oh, gotcha! Yeah, we weren't gonna kill the main character of the movie. Like, yeah, I just thought it was kind of lame, but looking back, it does actually dive in pretty well into the commentary. They show the different ways this can affect people, both big and small, and for the most part, it's efficiently done. But it's efficiently done with only these characters. Okay, so let me get to the big problem again that I said in my original review was the biggest problem, and I thought maybe going back it would change this time, but it really hasn't. It's Bob again. I actually really like it first, that it just looks like he's a joke. There's just this guy named Bob with these super mega humans, and he seems to have no powers or abilities. He's just the comic relief there, and he's not that bad at it. And then over time, he actually becomes the major villain. That is a fun idea. But there's two major issues. One, he turns way too fast. And I thought maybe watching it this time, we'd see more like there is that dark side to him early on. Like there is that side that will turn and be mean and he doesn't have control over, but that doesn't enter the picture until the halfway point. And it is so distracting. What? I'm suddenly supposed to be like, ooh, I'm afraid of this guy, or what's this guy about? At the halfway point, the character you established was pretty much just supposed to be comic relief for the first half. And then when he suddenly has this dark side that turns him all black and he's calling himself something else and he's going nuts. And yeah, this would be interesting if it wasn't just thrown at us. Just having one of the characters look at a few photos of people turned to soot isn't enough. So when we get to this really emotional third act, I find myself feeling more for the characters around him and the way he makes them feel than I do for him. In fact, they're still working in this weird comedy with him as a chicken, like, wait, I thought we were really supposed to care now. Nope, we're still doing the goofy stuff. He's comic relief rather. It just kept me at a distance for feeling for this guy. Which brings me to the second problem with this character, he's way too average. And again, if this was the joke, if it starts off he's just an average guy who's supposed to help these anti-heroes escape and they're just kind of stuck with him, he's not bad. Like, he could be really, really annoying, and he's not that. I will give the movie credit for that. But I suddenly put together what this movie was trying to do and doesn't succeed at least in my opinion. This movie is trying to do the Spot from the Spider-Verse films. That is a character who also started off as comic relief, but then very organically, very naturally becomes more of a threat. In fact, it's actually a little funnier that you thought he was just a villain of the week, and then suddenly he becomes the main threat. And you follow it, and he's funny, and he's interesting, and he's odd, and his power is neat, and just everything about him already started off as amusing even before he became the main villain. Bob just isn't. He just isn't. He's a bore, and he's meant to be a bore, and that's okay, but when suddenly he's supposed to be the ultimate bad guy by the end, in fact, he's supposed to be one of the members of the team afterwards, I just don't buy it. I'm not on board with him. I don't find him interesting. And maybe if they sprinkled some of that stuff throughout his development, like I said, in the first half of the movie, if they did show there was this dark side, like there is this mean, crazy little guy that lives in his head that makes him do bad stuff, that would be interesting, but A, I guess that would give away the joke, and maybe they didn't want to do that. And B, I feel like it would work better if they used a character that would be interesting even if he didn't have these powers. Put in someone like the dude from The Big Lebowski or Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. I don't know, that's just off the top of my head. At first I thought maybe it was the order it was revealed in, like Bob's backstory is revealed at the end and we don't know who he is at the beginning, and again, part of that is for the joke, so I really thought if I watched it again, I would understand him more and I'd be more into the story and sucked in, and that's just not the case. If they really did have more built up in the beginning with him and there was stuff that made him more interesting on a second watch, maybe this would all check out, but yeah, I'm sorry, this guy is just no Spot. But I will say this, both times I've watched this movie, I've been kind of on the fence about it. Because like I said, I actually do argue there's more things in this that do work than don't work. I just think the things that don't work are a little too big, and there's simply too many little things that start to add up. But I also know a lot of people that do really get into this film, and I'm not surprised by that. I think there are people that look at the allegory for depression and really get a lot out of it. It's not even like that bad a film to do it with. I mean, the characters are charming and likable for how unlikable they are, and the more you get to know them, the more you sympathize with them. Do I even need to bring up all the other stuff that people brought up, like Taskmaster is taken out in like a millisecond, and I'm just like, wow, that was just a quick reaction to how much people hated her in the last movie. Ghost doesn't do that much. I kept having to remind myself she was in the film. But yes, I have seen people relate to the story for it being a smaller story, even though the budget is still insane on it. Like, if you want to make a smaller story, why don't you actually make it smaller? But they do connect with the idea and the commentary and how mental health is very important, and I can't argue with that. When it works, it really does work, and it works with characters that, for the most part, are effective. It's just the main one, the main focus that everything is supposed to be about that they don't even make clear until the halfway point. So this definitely isn't a movie I'm willing to battle on, like, no, you're wrong, this is bad for people and nobody should see it. No, I get people who enjoy it, and maybe you'll enjoy it too. Maybe you've already seen it and maybe it had a big impact on you, and that's fantastic. It just didn't come together for me, but again, kind of like I said with Fantastic Four, I want to see more. I like these people, I like these characters, I want to see them on more adventures, I want to see them interact with other interesting characters. I'm down for it. I gave it 2.5 when I reviewed it. Again, the same as the new Fantastic Four, and that means I'm almost on the verge of recommending it, but not quite. And honestly, that's another way of saying you might like it. There might be an audience for this. In fact, I can guarantee there's an audience for this. It just didn't quite come together for me. With that said, what are your thoughts seeing it if you have seen it a second time? Does it get better the second time around? Do some parts get weaker? Do you think it comes together more? Maybe it falls apart more? Do you want to see more of these characters, or the fact that box office-wise it didn't do that great? Do you think they should stop? I'd love to know your thoughts. Grab a Wheaties box and see once more if these characters are worth still being on the cover.